Okay, so there's just 13 days till the US general election, presidential election. It's sometimes known as the general election in those terms to distinguish, I guess, from the midterms. Donald Trump's being interviewed right now, actually, on TV on YouTube. To show you on CNN. An interview with Dana Bash there. He's once again alleging, well, in this case, rudeness. A new poll's come out that shows Trump slightly ahead in the swing state of Florida, which is significant, of course. Um, because Florida is a swing state. I've been following US politics since roughly the 2004 presidential election between Bush and Kerry. So it is interesting that to see some of the things that are going on. There are a number of contrasts with British style politics, the British style of broad politics, and that would be an interesting video topic for another video. For this particular video, I want to talk about the subject of dynasty. And this is particularly significant because even if you allow for this poll in Florida, all the polls seem to be indicating Hillary Clinton's going to get quite a comfortable victory. Now, it is possible they could be wrong. There was a notable presidential election, 1948, when all the polls indicated that New York Republican Governor Thomas Dewey would win. Harry Truman won and got a second term. Um, or more to the point, he got a full term. He was finishing Roosevelt's fourth term. Um, Now, he was a huge underdog, and that's been called the biggest upset in American history. It isn't norm, and most elections polls tend to be indicative of what's going to happen. So I would be surprised if Hillary Clinton isn't going to win this. But looking at Hillary Clinton, um, leave aside all the scandals, all the controversies, of which there are many, no question about that. You know, the emails, um, Benghazi, her treatment of women who've accused Bill, etc., etc., all those things. Leave all that aside. Just focus on the name for a second. Clinton. Clinton. Let's say that Hillary Clinton was absolutely squeaky clean, she had no controversies. I think there would still be some issue simply because of the name. Because when the United States of America was established as a nation, when it became independent from my country back in 1776, the whole principle of that was to get away from dynasty, to get away from monarchy. What the American revolutionaries were actually campaigning for in the early days was the rights of Englishmen, because they were still then British subjects. And that came from the premise that the king had too much power. Now, an interesting thing was at that time, George III wasn't actually an absolute monarch. My American viewers may disagree with that, but in the British context, he wasn't actually an absolute monarch. We'd abolished absolute monarchy about 100 years before with the Glorious Revolution of 1689. Certainly, George III, I could definitely understand from an American perspective. He was tyrannical in that sense. He also suffered from porphyria, which was a form of madness, or at least in just unstable behavior. The only reason I'm mentioning that is because it is important to understand, I think, the history of the United States as a nation state. Now, there have been several very powerful political families, and four particularly come to mind: the Roosevelts, the Kennedys, the Bushes, and the Clintons. There are others, but those four in particular come to mind. Um, we can also include further back, perhaps the Adams and the Harrisons. But in those cases, both presidents, Harrison, were neither seen as great presidents, and there was quite a big distance between them. In the cases of the Adams, John Quincy Adams ranked mediocre, John Adams a bit higher, but was controversial for his Alien and Sedition Act, and that's going way back. So I'm thinking, let's say in the 20th century, the Roosevelts, Kennedys, the Bushes, and the Clintons. Of those electorally, arguably the most powerful has been the Bushes. The reason I'm saying that is because with the Roosevelts, Franklin Roosevelt and Theodore Roosevelt were distant cousins. They were not that closely related. With the Bushes, you had a father, a son, and a governor. And I believe now George P. Bush is a senior position in Texas. I believe he's the Texas Land Commissioner. So the Bushes are a very powerful political family. They are a good sort of template. If Hillary Clinton does indeed win, in my lifetime, list of presidents would be Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Clinton. I was born in 1985, so that would be over half of all the presidents in my lifetime have belonged to just two families, and that's quite does make you think. And I just wonder how people feel about this. Now, forget all the other controversies about Hillary Clinton. I just ask you to forget all those things for a second and just focus on her name. Is that an issue or is it not an issue? Incidentally, I'm not sure if there should be people should be blocked from running just because they've had a relative who was president before. I think surely there should be a right for every American citizen if they qualify under, forget which amendment it was, but as I understand it, they have to have resided in the US for 14 years, be a natural born citizen, and be at least 35 years of age. Hillary obviously falls well into that category. Um, Incidentally, the whole thing about natural born citizen that has been brought under question on a number of occasions. Chester Arthur was one president who actually there was some controversy over whether he was born in Canada or not, and there was other examples. I wonder in the future is that going to be changed because America is a nation of immigrants, and personally, I think it's a little harsh that if they were born in the US but one parent wasn't, they're ineligible to run. I think that's a bit harsh. Surely, if America is to be the land of opportunity, then any American citizen who loves their country and who has shown public service and so on, and passes the Presidential Exploratory Committee, surely they should have the right to run. That's my own opinion. And by the way, I take the same view about the UK. I believe if someone is a British citizen, they love this country, and they have shown loyalty to this country, etc., they should have the right to run for Prime Minister, although it's a bit different here. And maybe I'll come to that in a video contrasting the US and British systems. There are also some other names that are not necessarily nationally famous, but are prominent within a particular state. So, for example, the Longs of Louisiana or the Udalls of the West, predominantly Arizona, but other states as well, I believe. So it is an interesting phenomenon. There's also states that arguably have a sort of aristocracy. Virginia, New York, and Ohio, between them, those three states, I believe, have produced almost half of all the presidents. Virginia's produced about six, New York about five, Ohio about five, something like that. So those three states between them have really had. There was, of course, the Virginia Dynasty, they called it, where the first, I believe it was first five, six presidents were born in Virginia, or first four out of five, something like that. Um, Certainly, yeah, I believe John Adams was the only one who wasn't. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe were all Virginians. Um, so it's an interesting thing. I'll leave it there. I want to get my hands on the Kitty Kitty book, The Bushes. I believe that's what it's called. Um, I think of all of those, the Bushes are the most powerful. The Kennedys are one of the most famous, but actually, in terms of electorally, they aren't quite as high as the Bushes, because you had a 3-year presidency, you had Attorney General, and a long-term senator. The Bushes, you had two presidents and a governor, two governors if you include George W.'s gubernatorial record in Texas. So it is an interesting thing. I wonder years from now, will Michelle Obama run? Will Chelsea Clinton run? Like I say, if they're American citizens, nothing's stopping them from running. But I do wonder, does this cause controversy? It provokes a number of things. It's slightly boring if you always have the same family in office. It also kind of poses the question: is there a conspiracy? And conspiracy people always love that sort of stuff. It is also interesting to note that from 1980 to 2013, when Hillary Clinton stepped down as Secretary of State, there has been a Bush or a Clinton either on the ticket or in high office. Now that's significant. So these two families are immensely powerful. Mitt Romney's speaking right now, actually. I believe his father was a prominent figure. Yeah, anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts. As an American citizen, how do you feel about dynasty? And please just ignore all the other controversies about Clinton because that's just a distraction. I'm focusing solely on her name. Is that a problem? Is it not a problem? If you're a critic of Clinton, I'm just asking about the specific question. If you're a supporter of Clinton, what do you think of it? Is it not a problem for you? Is it an issue? What do you think? Thanks for watching.